But a modern car like this Toyota Matrix that has variable valve timing, it's much more complex and really requires a synthetic oil. And if you're going to change your oil that less frequently, you really need a better oil filter than some of the cheap ones that don't filter that well. I use conventional motor oil and change it every 3,000 miles. That's how older cars were made.
Is premium motor oil really an engine saver, or is it just an expensive gimmick? Every driver has faced that awkward moment at the shop when the mechanic asks, do you want the cheap oil or the premium blend? On the surface, that feels like a big choice about your engine's future, but what if the real answer has almost nothing to do with price? What if the critical factor most people overlook is hiding inside your owner's manual? Let's start with exactly what mechanics say when they aren't trying to sell you anything. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. What if I told you mechanics don't actually make their money on oil changes? The part you pay for, the oil itself, and the labor to pour it in, isn't where the shop sees profit. In fact, many shops deliberately price their oil changes at or even below cost. That's right, they often lose money just by changing your oil. At first glance, that sounds crazy, but it's part of a larger strategy that has little to do with keeping your engine healthy and everything to do with keeping their business running. Think about it. Oil changes are the most routine type of maintenance you'll ever do. Every car needs them, and drivers know they need them regularly. That makes oil changes the ultimate lure to get you through the door. Offering a low-price oil change works the same way grocery stores sell eggs or milk for almost nothing. It gets people in, and once they're inside, the real sales begin. When your car goes on the lift, it's no longer just about oil. It becomes an inspection opportunity. Suddenly, your air filter looks dirty, your cabin filter is overdue, or your wipers are streaking the windshield. The shop can charge a healthy margin on each of those items, which means the tiny loss they take on oil turns into a much larger profit by the time you leave. Now here's where it gets interesting. If shops lose money on basic oil service, why do so many push customers to upgrade to premium oil instead? The pitch sounds convincing. Better protection, smoother running, longer intervals. But behind the counter, the motivation is much simpler. If you upgrade to a more expensive bottle, they've instantly balanced out that initial loss. From the business perspective, the oil itself is just another tool to help them recoup costs and raise the average ticket price without having to sell as many add-ons. What mechanics will tell you privately, though, paints a very different picture. Ask those who actually work on engines, and many will say there's no difference at all between cheap and premium oil if both meet the same specification. That's the detail shops rarely focus on. For customers, the message is usually pay more to protect your engine. But for mechanics who see what engines look like after hundreds of thousands of miles, the real concern isn't how expensive the oil is. It's whether that oil meets the certification required by the manufacturer. And that makes sense. Oil companies can slap a premium label on the front of a bottle, but the protection your engine actually gets is defined by technical standards in the fine print. The contradiction is hard to ignore. In the same building, the service advisor at the front desk insists one oil is superior because of price, while the technician out back mutters, cheap or expensive, it doesn't matter, just meet the spec. For drivers, that's confusing. You're left wondering if you've been protecting your investment or just padding the shop's margins. Understanding that split is important because it shows you where the real money flows during an oil service. And it's not into that drain pan, it's in the extras you agree to once your car is already in the bay. So here's the real payoff. The oil itself is rarely the sale. The filters, the fluid flushes, even a brake job conveniently discovered during that inspection, that's where the profit lies. And once you know that, you can start to see through the routine upselling every driver faces. But if so many mechanics quietly believe most oils are functionally the same, why do some still caution customers to avoid the bargain bin jug? That's where the real risks start to surface. And it's a warning you don't want to overlook. Did you know that 60% of drivers are unknowingly using the wrong oil right now? It sounds unbelievable, but the truth is that most people don't look past the front label on the bottle. They assume if it says synthetic or premium, their engine is safe. But here's the reality. The most expensive oil on the shelf can still be the wrong oil for your car, and using it can lead to damage that costs thousands to fix. This isn't a case of price, it's a case of specification. Think back to the last time you saw a row of different oils lined up at the store. To the average shopper, they all look the same. Some bottles highlight words like high mileage, others push extended performance. What most people ignore are the codes and numbers hidden in small print. The ones like SAE5W30 paired with certifications such as APISN, Dexos 1 Gen 2, VW502.00, or BMW LL03. Those aren't marketing buzzwords. They are the actual standards that tell you whether that oil can survive in your engine under high stress, resist breaking down, and prevent internal wear. When you choose based only on price, you skip right past those requirements, and that's where the danger begins. So what exactly happens if you use the wrong oil? Imagine sludge slowly thickening in narrow oil passages, coating them like tar so that fresh oil can't reach critical parts. Or picture a turbocharger spinning at over 200,000 revolutions per minute, starving for lubrication because the oil doesn't meet the heat resistance it was designed for. In modern engines, the timing chain depends on exact oil flow to avoid metal on metal grinding. The wrong viscosity leads to extra strain until the chain stretches and throws off the entire system. These aren't just small inconveniences, these are failures that can completely wipe out an engine. And here's why that issue is worse in today's cars than a few decades ago. Older engines could survive on a broad range of oils, but modern turbocharged engines, direct injection setups, and advanced emissions controls force oil to do much more than just lubricate. A Volkswagen turbocharged 2.0-liter engine, for example, calls for oils carrying the VW502.00 approval. Use a generic synthetic 5W30 without that approval, and you're asking for coked-up turbos and early bearing wear. BMW's engines designed for long life service demand LL03 certified oil. Skip that for a bottle labeled premium extended without the approval, and you risk damaging expensive emission systems or clogging oil passages far earlier than expected. It's ironic, but some of the so-called top shelf oils are actually no more than marketing with none of the OEM approvals your car needs. In real world cases, mechanics see it all the time. Customers spending more money on what looked like the best oil, yet walking back in months later with timing chain noise, heavy sludge buildup, or even a seized turbo, all because the oil was not officially approved for that car. On the flip side, a less expensive bottle that specifically meets the manufacturer's required certification can keep that engine protected for the full service interval without issue. The lesson here is direct and clear. Premium doesn't mean better, specification means better. Any oil that doesn't carry the manufacturer's certification, no matter the cost, is a gamble with your engine's survival. Cars today are engineered around exact chemistry, tested and signed off by the automaker with strict standards. Without the correct approval, that oil is nothing more than a guess, and your engine isn't the place to gamble. At the end of the day, the fight between premium and cheap oil doesn't matter nearly as much as the fine print. If that bottle doesn't carry the exact approval your manufacturer calls for, it doesn't matter how much you spent, it's not protecting your engine. The smartest move you can make is simple. Open your manual, note the certification, and only buy bottles that match. Don't let a price tag or sales pitch steer your decision. Your engine's survival has nothing to do with flashy labels. It depends entirely on whether that oil actually fits your car's requirements.